Welcome to the 2014 presidential debate for 5th period. I'm Callie Tobin, a debate moderator.
I'm Lisa Ruger, the other debate moderator.
This is our Democratic candidate, Sydney Whitted, Republican candidate, Casey Kramer, and third-party candidate, Sarah Kale.
Casey, do you believe that the progressive taxation policy where people who make a higher income are taxed a greater percentage than those making a lower income is a socialist policy which punishes performance?
I do believe that. I believe that the Republican Party directly opposes retroactive taxation. I don't believe in any tax policy that divides Americans or promotes class welfare. I believe that if I were to become president and reform the tax policy, the best way to do it is to implement a fair tax, which is basically a tax on consumption instead of a tax on income. So what you're doing is you're significantly raising the sales tax, so you're taxed on the amount you spend instead of the amount you make, because by doing that, the wealthy are given the option. They can either spend, if you're going to go out and buy a Lamborghini, you're going to be taxed a heavier amount on it. You can also save your money or invest your money, and it won't be heavily taxed.
Okay, we can hear from one of the other candidates. You can go first.
Thank you. So the thing that Americans don't want to hear is the progressive taxation policy is redistributing income. And I don't believe in that. I believe that we need to establish a flat tax that applies to everyone. And if I were president, that's what I would do, which it would realign incentives, meaning encourage those with lower income to be able to work harder, because the flat tax would be one tax that everyone, it doesn't matter what class you are, it doesn't matter what income you make, everyone would be taxed the same. So it would, like I said, it would be an incentive for those with a lower income to work harder so they wouldn't have to give as much in taxes.
I personally disagree with the both of you. I don't see anything wrong with the taxation policy we already have. I truly believe that it's not a socialist policy. If you make more, you should give more in taxes. And a flat tax, I don't believe would work, because yes, some people would be, motivated to try to make a higher income, but sometimes that's just not possible given certain circumstances. So I feel that keeping the tax the way it is completely fair, and it's just how it is. If you make more money, you should give more to the government. People who are in the 1% of the country still have millions of dollars, for celebrities, for example. So.
Okay.
If I could just interject, I do believe that by taxing the richer more, you're like limiting their ability to invest in the private sector and to spend more money. And since they do possess the most wealth, and it is true, our top 1% possesses like 40% of the wealth, and our top 1% also combined has like the amount of money their shared wealth is like greater than like every single other country's wealth other than like 2 countries. But I do believe that if you tax them a higher amount, then you're restricting their ability to invest back in the private sector, to buy expensive homes, to invest in companies and in business, and it's putting a burden on our economy. They're not as free as they would be because they're being taxed such a large amount.
I do have to disagree with you there, because like I said before, even after taxes, they still have tons and tons of money. They don't have to spend it on huge mansions or fancy cars or anything. If they really wanted to invest, they could do that freely.
But
we're not taking all of their money.
Shouldn't that be their choice? That's what's so great about a consumption tax, is when the only tax you face is a sales tax, and it would be a significantly increased sales tax, but when the only tax you face is a sales tax, you are given the choice on how you can spend your money, and you know what is going to be taxed and what isn't going to be taxed. So these very, very wealthy people, they can choose if they would like to spend it, if they would like to be taxed, or if they would like to save it or invest it.
If I may elaborate, how much would this sales tax be? Would it be a flat sales tax for every single product?
In 2011, this bill was actually proposed in Congress, and it was a 23% sales tax. So right now in the state, we're at I think it's 7% sales tax, and so 23% is a significant increase. But if you're doing away with an income tax, the government still needs its
Well, the
tax revenues. We can
7%
both
is
agree on that.
4% from the national and 3% from the state. Would the 23% only be the national, or would it also be the state as well?
Yeah, so it would be a national tax because the tax revenues are for the national.
So it
government.
would only increase with state taxes too, because states need the tax as well.
Yes, it would be a significantly larger tax, but then there would be no income tax. There would be no larger income tax for the rich, and there wouldn't be any retroactive taxation.
What I just want to ask, what about lower class families, middle to lower class families?
Well, they buy less, so they would be taxed less. They spend less money, so they face the same sales tax, but they're not going to be spending as much. So they're going to be taxed.
That's nearly 1/4 of what they buy. They have to add on to their expenses. If you get $100 in groceries, that's $125 that you have to pay.
Yeah, but you don't have an income tax. It's the government. We all agree that the government has to. That the only way the government gets money is from tax revenues. So they have to get it somehow. I'm just saying, the people that make less, they also spend less. So they're going to be taxed less than the rich. They're just going to be taxed equally. And the rich are going to spend more, so they will be taxed more. They just won't be slapped with a massive income tax that restricts their ability to invest, spend, do whatever they want to do.
Interesting point.
Does anybody have anything else to say?
No. Okay. The next question. On the topic of choice, 50% of poll voters agree that people should have the freedom to control their own retirement. How does your platform support freedom of choice in the matter of controlling own retirement and privatizing Social Security?
I personally believe that we do need to privatize Social Security because at the moment, Social Security is basically a tax that we give to the government that they pick into for government funding. And Social Security is really unevenly distributed because the government spends so much of it. With my platform and what my party believes is that we should privatize it. So if you want to take out money from Social Security, that's your money that you were taxed that was taken out of your paychecks. So you should be able to get that compensated back to you in your retirement.
Yeah, I'd like to say that I believe also that we need to privatize Social Security because the Social Security program, it shouldn't be automatic for everyone. It should be an optional thing to benefit those who wish to handle their own finances because ages are changing and more people are developing modernized views. And removing people from the equation would require less money from the government to keep that program alive. So I believe that we should raise the age that Social Security is offered to people by 1 year per federal budget renewal, because again, that would save the government money. And I think that it would also prevent abuse of the system.
I think that I agree with them both. We do need to privatize Social Security, but the reality of it right now is that the government does control the health care of tens of millions of Americans. And right now, the Social Security system is projected to go bankrupt in the year of 2030. So we can't talk about what should, we just need to focus on the fact that right now that it is in the hands of the governments and it is projected to go bankrupt in 2030. And so the solution to that is to we need to let people have control over their own investments in Social Security. It's going to be highly regulated because the government does control the money and the government does control it right now. But the people should be able to have some control in their investments so they're more invested in their own retirement. Things like mutual funds and just other safe investments gives people the power of choice, but the money is still controlled by the government. And hopefully this will save Social Security so that it's not bankrupt in 2030.
Okay. A new procedure allows a doctor to operate on a fetus diagnosed with spina bifida while still in the mother's womb early in the second trimester. How can someone constitute abortion by saying the baby is only mutinous tissue?
I actually have an article where a woman who remained anonymous has described a situation where she was actually really excited for her pregnancy. She was 18 weeks along and she went to go see the sex of the baby. And she describes how her and her husband were paying the nursery and she was so excited. But when she gets to the ultrasound, they realized that this baby had spina bifida, and I quote, that the baby's brain was being pulled against the back of its cranium, its nerves were exposed in its back, and it would only, if it were to live, even past the procedure, it would be paralyzed and incontinent, meaning it would not be able to control its own bowels. And personally, I feel that it is the choice of a mother and a couple in general, whoever the parents are, to make that choice. We have to put ourselves, would you want to live like that for your whole life, paralyzed and not even being able to control your bodily fluids? You know, it's hard to say from a government standpoint whether that's right or wrong. Therefore, it should be a matter of private choice as opposed to government control.
Regarding abortion, I'd like to say that I take a pro-life stance, and abortion should only be allowed in extreme circumstances, as in rape, or if the pregnancy would turn fatal towards the mother, because I like to see that all lives are created equal and everyone should have the same opportunities coming into this world. But taking that stance, we also need to look at the lives of the mothers, and if the lives of the mothers are at stake in those extreme circumstances, saying rape, or if a medical operation is going to turn to worse, then we need to make abortion illegal just in those circumstances, or legal in those circumstances, and it would only occur in the first trimester, but other than that, pro-life.
I'd also like to say I do take a strong pro-life stance. I understand the article and the point made, but I do believe that's a 1% issue. The rape or the spina bifida, that is an issue that happens so little, and so much of the time you need to take a pro-life stance. Ronald Reagan said it pretty good. He said, I've noticed that everyone for abortion has already been born, which is basically saying that once they're conceived, it's living. It is life, and we're not here to destroy life. I mean, yes, pretty much. In Article 21 of the Constitution, it clearly states that the federal government takes it upon itself to protect all forms of life and property, and I believe in this article it's speaking all forms of life. A fetus is a form of life. It will be born, and it should be given a chance in this world, in the land of opportunity.
I don't disagree with you both, because personally, I'm kind of both. I'm more like you. Like, I don't think it's okay to carelessly just get an abortion just because you don't want to have a child. However, there are extreme cases such as this in rape and incest or medical issues where it's absolutely necessary. I have a personal example. My own mother, she had a tubular pregnancy. Whether she kept the baby or not, she would have died and the baby wouldn't have survived either way. Therefore, this was a perfectly reasonable medical decision, because she still had 2 other kids to take care of. And also, you know, there's no proven definition or accepted definition of when life begins as a fetus. The point of, the point of conception, it's just, doesn't necessarily, it is a gray area. It doesn't automatically just make a baby.
Mm-hmm.
There's several weeks of process where it's still a zygote, it's still a bundle of cells, and I'm not saying that humans, fetuses aren't life. They absolutely are, but it's still the choice of the mother. If we know, medical technology has gone by so fast and it improves to such great advances, we can tell diseases and horrible conditions that babies could be in before they've reached the second trimester. And in cases like this, is it really fair for the government to say, well, you have to have a baby even though it's going to be in a mental institution its whole life, not being able to control its bowels, it won't be able to walk or speak, or it won't see and it won't hear? I personally wouldn't want to live that way. I don't know how it's fair for the government to say, well, you have to make your child live that way.
I agree with you. I think in those special circumstances and in things like rape and when there's disease, I understand that in that case an abortion may be the right option or the best option for the mother, for the family. But I think in any other case, it is the government's role to protect life. And I do believe that after the point of conception, it is a form of life and should be protected by federal government legislation.
And I understand how you say that it's the mother's choice, but that I feel like that might be creating an abuse of the system.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.